Viktor Gyokeres.
Brother, this is like what you would say, this ain't no Portuguese league, mate. Like, and listen, I'm not saying Gyökeres is a dud or anything, it's just...
That's Gyökeres. There's no way right now that the defender should catch you. Now, stop. That ball has to go here. There's no way that those guys should catch you. If you
Struggling? Out of his depth in the Premier League? Ghosting in big games? It's safe to say, even with the early goals he's scored for Arsenal, Viktor Gyokeres still has more questions to answer and doubters to silence. He could learn a thing or two from a man who used to be in his position a couple of years back. Just like Gyökeres now, Erling Haaland came into the Premier League with big questions to answer. Pundits doubted whether he could really hit it big in the league, even when he scored.
But I think we're only seeing 60% of Erling Haaland. You think of that goal he scored at West Ham on the first game of the season, where there's space in behind, he makes that run. Now, I know that's not there that often because of the way City play, but he's come from a league in Borussia Dortmund where it's a counter-attacking league.
But since that point on, Haaland has continued to break goal-scoring record after goal-scoring record in the competition. And if you're Viktor Gyokeres, he's the ultimate playbook on how to bag goals in the Premier League. To understand how Gyökeres can learn from Erling Haaland, we need to understand what the problem with Gyökeres is. There are two, but we'll start with the immediate one.
They all need now to sign a centre forward because I don't know where the new one was on Sunday against Manchester City, by the way. How do you have 70% possession
against
Man City and still have a centre forward who's completely invisible, who's 6 foot something and invisible as he was?
This wasn't just a one-off against Manchester City, it's a continuation of a trend.
The weight of Gyökeres in Canade's back pocket, he was awful. Awful. What did he do? Arsenal fans, he's your number 9. What does he do? He doesn't lead the line, not physical enough, didn't bully Canada and Van Dijk, didn't run in behind, didn't get into decent positions, didn't have a sniff.
And to sum this first problem up,
Gyökeres needs to score in a big game. He has to. For where he's at now, he's scoring, but he's scoring in the games we would expect him to score. And I believe that Arsenal brought him in to score in these type of games. Is to score against the Man United at the start of the season, score against Liverpool, score against City. That's where I think they brought him in.
well, this perfectly explains it. You see, the first big Viktor Gyokeres problem at Arsenal is the fact that he's been anonymous in the games you feel Arsenal bought him for. I mean, let's face facts. As of recording this, Gyökeres has scored 3 goals in 5 appearances in all competitions for Arsenal this season. 2 of those came in the 5-0 win against a newly promoted Leeds United team. Out of those 2, 1 was from the spot. This isn't to discredit any of the goals, but is simply stating the fact that Gyökeres isn't scoring the big goals in the big games. But if we choose to analyse this though, how much of it is down to him? Well, just before we get to that, hit the subscribe button to Football Historia down below if you haven't yet for more videos like this.
We keep talking about, again, going back to people saying they need a number 9. If Arsenal would have had a number 9, let's say Erling Haaland was playing centre forward for Arsenal this season or in the last few games, would they have scored more goals? Of course they would, because he's a top striker and a great finisher. But on the basis of those 3 games I've shown you, the best chances they had, Erling Haaland doesn't make any difference. He does not. Yeah, of course. I mean, they were. But again, you talk about coming back to, you talk about XG. But
Fair point. Is the truth really that this Arsenal team doesn't create enough clear-cut chances, and it ultimately means Gyökeres will struggle early on? Well, you look at this even more and realise this Arsenal team hasn't played with a typical number 9 like Gyökeres. We've seen Arteta play false 9s in the position due to injury by using Mikel last season. When he's fit, that's Kai Havertz's position. Same with Gabriel Jesus. The last 2 are indeed strikers, but different types. The setup is different, but with his price tag and the expectations surrounding him, we're talking about a guy who scored 54 goals for Sporting Lisbon last season, and the critics will come at his performances. But again, to say this almost sounds laughable. We're talking about an Arsenal team with quality players, the likes of Bukayo Saka, Eberechi, Martin Ødegaard, Declan Rice, and even Martin Zubimendi. They've got players who are just as good on the ball. Watched the game against City a few weeks back, and on multiple occasions, Martin Zubimendi could be seen gesturing for Viktor Gyokeres to leave the centre-backs and come close to the ball. He wanted him to drop deep and get involved in the play, instead of trying to isolate himself. Gyökeres didn't quite get the memo. Then you delve into his stats. In 60 minutes against Man United, he had no goals or assists, 0 shots on target. Actually, scratch that, 0 shots. He bagged 2 goals against Leeds United, then 0 goals or assists against Liverpool. In fact, he had 17 touches, the least of any starter in that game at Anfield. Gyökeres had more yellow cards with 1 than he had actual shots in the game, with none. He was much better against Nottingham Forest. 4 shots, a goal, 7 touches in the opposition box, created a chance as well. But just when it looked like he'd finally get a sustainable rhythm, Gyökeres and Arsenal faced Man City, and it was a repeat of a worrying trend. 0 shots, 0 goals or assists, and he was dispossessed 13 times, man. 13. Now we know what the problem is. Gyökeres can score goals, but he's been inconsistent, especially against bigger teams. On top of that, in-game, he hasn't been all that convincing. But like we said, Gyökeres wouldn't be the first big number 9 to transition to this league and have a start that isn't up to his standard. It was just like Erling Haaland all those years back. Right, so what should Viktor Gyokeres learn from Erling Haaland then? Well, first off, it's how to play in these big games. The most obvious example was the stark contrasts in how they both played when they faced each other at the Emirates. Where Gyökeres, at best, was able to shield the ball, Haaland became an all-around target. He scored, but at the same time, he also performed Gyökeres' highlight. He held the ball up against Gabriel and Saliba. Haaland wasn't static. You could argue that it's down to how Pep set the team up, to play on the counter that is. But the point is, Haaland was a mobile threat. From defending in his own half to attempting to close down the centre-backs, going wide to receive the ball, and even attempting to drive with it. The summary of that game is that when Haaland received the ball, he was able to make something out of it. When Gyökeres did receive the ball though, he looked off. It's the Premier League. The best strikers in this league know how to turn half chances into goals. And that's the other thing Viktor Gyokeres can learn from Erling Haaland. In fact, this one feels even more important than the first. How to evolve. When Erling Haaland first came to the Premier League, it was easy to understand the doubts. He was playing in the Bundesliga for Borussia Dortmund, a high-intensity league where the spaces to run in behind an attack were bigger because of how direct the league is. Then he made the switch to Manchester City and the Premier League, but it just showed another side of Haaland's game, his technique. It'd be easy to think because of his big frame and his size, Haaland's best abilities would be to hold the ball and attack the space. But Haaland showed in his first season just how good he is with the ball. Fast forward to now, and he's become an all-around target. He's scored all types of goals from different positions. Tap-ins, he's scored. First-time shots, he's scored. Goals from outside the box, he's scored. Penalties, he's scored. Acrobatic goals that look almost insane, he's scored those too. The point is that Haaland's goals are diverse. He's adapted well to the Premier League. Give him the space and he'll run in behind and score. At the same time, if teams sit back, he's always waiting for the opportunity because he knows with the players on the City team that the chance will arrive. That's what Viktor Gyokeres has to do now. Gyökeres has to evolve. To be fair to him, including the Champions League opener against Athletic Bilbao and the Carabao Cup win against Port Vale, he's only 6 games into his Arsenal career, and 3 goals isn't necessarily a bad return for a player who is transitioning. But the point is, watching Gyökeres now, his game looks a bit predictable.
I don't see what else is there then. That's the question that I'm asking. Is there enough after he's physically matched?
When Rio Ferdinand said this, a couple of fans thought it was hate, but it turns out it's the truth that Gyökeres needs to learn. His physicality is the main thing he's got going for him at this point. But just like Haaland, Gyökeres needs to learn to score different types of goals and not just rely on holding the ball up, because at some point he will get physically matched, as we saw in the league opener against Manchester United or in the game versus Liverpool. He needs to be able to give his team more. He's also got a point to prove. Viktor Gyokeres might be new to the Premier League with Arsenal, but he's not a stranger to English football. He used to play for Brighton, went on loan to Swansea. The idea here is that Gyökeres would have known about the demanding nature of English football and the media, the pressure that comes with succeeding, but he's got the right mentality in dealing with all of it.
Wrong with that. How do you find it? How do you deal with it? Shut it out, ignore it, use it as kind of fuel, as energy?
Yeah, maybe it isn't my number one priority to read everything that's been said or that people write. So yeah, maybe just think about the things you can control. And
He'll only pay attention to what he can do on the pitch and ignore the rest of it, which brings us back to his football. He knows he can improve. It's again trying to take from Haaland's playbook. Gyökeres needs to shoot more. 3 goals this season from 3 shots on target sounds decent. I mean, if you flip it to one side, you're talking about a 100% rate with his shots that hit the target. But for a guy who wants to be ranked among the Premier League's elite, Gyökeres needs more. Haaland? As of recording this, he's scored the most goals in the Premier League with 8 this season. But the point we want to bring out here is that Haaland is also the player with the most big chances missed this season with 6. It's simple saying he will score more because he shoots more. He's averaging 1.63 shots per 90. For context, it's a drop-off from the 4.07 he was averaging at Sporting last season. There's one big thing Haaland did at Man City when he first arrived that if Gyökeres does, could unlock a whole new level to his game. It's one thing to have the talent, it's another thing to have the right players in the team to bring out the best of that talent. Haaland knew he could score goals. That's why City signed him. That was never a problem, but he also knew that he needed to identify that one player in the City team who could become a consistent supplier for him. That used to be Kevin De Bruyne before he left City last season.
Everyone, I think from day one, thought about that partnership, that connection that might exist between you and Kevin De Bruyne. Just tell us a little bit about your relationship.
You've been watching at a couple of goals this season, how it is, and this is something you don't need to speak about because this is something you know. And he knows I will be there, and I know that he will shoot the ball in there in front of the keeper behind the defense. The most difficult pass to defend against, you know. So this is something you just know.
You listen to Haaland talk about him here. It's a telepathic link-up between the two. Haaland talks about how he always knew De Bruyne was going to play that defense-splitting pass or balls over the top. He identified that partnership with De Bruyne earlier and he became his main supply line. Gyökeres can do the same at Arsenal. While it might be at the Kevin De Bruyne level of playmaker, Gyökeres can pick a creative force in the team to start something with, and every indicator points to it being Arsenal's other summer signing. Eze has so far provided 2 assists, created 2 big chances, and looked to be a possible game changer when he's played, as he was in the case against Manchester City with his assist. Arteta has also talked about the team adapting to Eze's game in the past. It's just smart work from Gyökeres. Eze is the guy Arteta looks at as the key to hitting new levels in attack. Strike a partnership with him and understand him. The best centre-forwards in the world, they've all at some point had that one creative player who has acted consistent as a supply line. Just look what we've seen with KDB and Haaland. We could see that with Gyökeres and Eze. Now, with everything we've said, it's worth noting that it's still very early on in Gyökeres' Arsenal career.
Also responsibility from some of the Arsenal players and not just swinging balls in and allowing him to get on the end or something, but he went very quiet. And when Haaland has gone very quiet under similar circumstances, we have been critical of Erling Haaland. And so I think it's fair to say to Gyökeres, yeah, it was a frustrating match, but would have loved to have seen more of him and from him during that.
Maybe people are being harsh, but then again, after the summer and the saga surrounding his transfer, it's understandable too. Gyökeres is the latest big money number 9 acquisition in the Premier League, but it all comes down to him. We've seen many names come to the league and fail. The likes of Darwin Núñez at Liverpool and Rasmus Højlund at Man United. They both got compared to Haaland, same with Gyökeres. The difference though is that Gyökeres was a beast at Sporting, where the other two were coming off the back of stunning and promising seasons at Benfica and Atalanta respectively. Haaland has the playbook. He's not hiding it, it's open. If Gyökeres decides to take pages off it and write his own chapter, he will succeed. If not, it could be a case of Mikel Arteta reverting to a system that worked for him before Gyökeres. Come to think of it, a lot went down in the Arsenal vs City game a few weeks back. It was almost as surprising tactically as it was crazy to watch. From Pep changing his system to Mikel Arteta discovering something about his other summer signing, this one had everything. But it also made one thing clear. Click the next video to find out what that is.